Hello, and welcome to this edition of Yakima Agenda. I'm Randy Beeler. We have here in the YPAC studio the mayor of Yakima, Patricia Byers, and the assistant mayor of Yakima, Matt Brown. This is our quarterly discussion that we get to have with you guys, and we appreciate it every time that you're here. Today, we talked a little bit just before we started the interview about what we wanted to talk about. One of the things that we want to focus on, at least to begin with, is some really good news, and that is the grand opening of the Aquatic Center at MLK Junior Park. It occurred just recently here, and if you guys wouldn't mind, just, I know both of you were there, talk a little bit about the reaction of that crowd at the grand opening, and then we can talk a little bit about how this whole project came to be.
Well, I think there were probably at least 200 people there. Pretty easy. So it was just people that I know from all over the city. It was amazing. Everybody was excited. I think the ceremony took a little longer than people expected, but it's okay. And along the side were all these little kids and their parents waiting for us to get done so they could come in and enjoy the pool. It was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's not often that when in this role as a council member, you get to see a project of this size actually come to completion in your term. And getting to see the community buy-in was also just really cool to see, because there was just, I mean, as the mayor said, there was probably close to 200. It might have even been more than that.
I think so.
There were so many people, and people were just super excited to get in there. I mean, I was excited. I wanted to go down the slide right away, but I didn't do it.
You into it,
I
and
know.
you wouldn't do it. I was going to do it, and you wouldn't do it.
Well, talking about community involvement, I think that project is very emblematic, maybe more so than most projects that we've had recently, of community support. Not only were there dollars put in by the city of Yakima, Yakima County, but also a lot of private money was put into that project, and that, I think, is a testament to this community.
Absolutely. The Aquatic Center itself, even before operational funds were set aside for maintenance later, was an $11 million project. And when it started, we had the city of Yakima, the county of Yakima, and with Senator Curtis King, we had legislative money coming in. So it started at about $8 million. That's a pretty big gap to get to 11. And so there was a capital campaign, and it was just amazing, the donors that came in and just said, yes, we want to be a part of this. We're fully supporting. The most precious part, honestly, was the East Side Committee had all these kids who really wanted the pool too. They started with pop bottles, collecting pennies. That's how it started. And then they got the schools to buy in. And so we were going to the schools and picking up containers full of coins and taking them around to the bank and counting it all out. But that little group by itself raised over $200,000. Wow. It was amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah. That is incredible. Wow.
And also support from nonprofit entities and private donors as well. And we're talking about significant amounts of money.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's truly, I mean, when you do projects like this, oftentimes people think, oh, that's just government's problem. But this project really was a community-led effort to get this thing done. I mean, originally I think it started in 2017, but prior to that, I mean, the East Side pools closed down early 2000s, and since then it's been like, hey, we need to get this thing back. And the community rallied, people got around it, and we got it done.
Right.
And it's a really cool facility. It's not your traditional pool.
No.
It's more of a recreational aquatic center with different sections, different depth pools, different activities.
Well, because Deputy Mayor Brown wouldn't go down the slide with me, I decided just to kick my shoes off and walk into the waiting entry level for the little kids. And you walk in there, and then the water starts sprouting up around you. It was really crazy and fun. And then they have a deeper, swimming section. They have some great slides, and they have a water ninja. I wasn't quite sure what that was, but a ninja wall.
Yeah. Randy's doing that one.
Basically an obstacle
Yes.
course and a climbing wall. Very cool stuff. There, that ceremony featured the opportunity to say thank you to a lot of people who had a
Yes.
hand in it, and there are so many, not the least of which are include our legislative delegation from the 14th and 15th districts. But if there was one person that you might point to as the instigator and the motivator, I think it's fair to say that's probably Esther Huey.
Esther Huey, because she, when the city closed the pools on the east side in 2005, 2006, the city made a promise we're going to come back and give you a pool, and she waited a long time, and she actually counted. She came to council 17 times to press forward the promise that the city made to put in a pool on the east side. 17 times. And I'm thinking it may even been more than that. Maybe that's all she actually marked on her calendar. I don't know. But she was the real leader. She's a great influencer in the community, and she pulled people together, rallied people together. And the council in 2017 did a feasibility study, and then weren't able to carry it forward. So when I came on council in 2020, the group was still active, and so I joined Holly Cousins at that point on the committee, and just went forward from there. But it was really, the will of the council as a whole. I think I would ask you, Deputy Mayor, that it was really the will of the council that, no, we're just going to move forward with this because it's necessary, it's critical.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you've seen many councils actually try to get,
Yeah.
this project going and get it done. And so it's been kind of one of those things that each council kind of carried the torch to the next council
Yeah.
and handed it off. And, that doesn't happen in government typically. It's rare that those things happen. And so, but I think that's a testament to Esther and her team and those folks that, we're not going to let this thing die. And now it's here, and we're ready to rock. So.
And they are actually still, as a East Side community group, they are still raising funds for pool maintenance. I know I bought dozens of tamales and bags of popcorn.
Well, having watched government for as long as I have, I would agree that it's rare to see a project of that magnitude over that period of time continue with the consistency and reach a full conclusion. And as I was mentioning before we started the interview, that whole park now, MLK Junior Park,
Yes.
just a short few years ago, wasn't a very attractive place.
Pre-COVID, right?
It was kind of an abandoned area. That's probably too strong, but now today, boy, it's a wonderful community gathering place.
Well, it was a park with some trees and benches and water spray feature, things like that. But the Rotary Club has been fantastic in supporting the parks in Yakima and Kiwanis as well. And they did a playground there, just a phenomenal playground, just right next to where the pool is, went in a few years ago. And that's when the pool was already moving forward in terms of the idea and the funding. So it just really has kind of brought that all to life.
Well, a real, I think, a feather in the cap of the community is that aquatic center. Another big focus right now for the city is the airport. Lots of the facilities, particularly the terminal building, but some other areas out there, that terminal building was built in the 40s. And
71 or 72 years old.
Yeah. And is in need of updating. But that process is underway. Can we talk a little bit about some of the projects that are being done now and are planned in the not too distant future?
Right. Well, it's kind of three phases. In the first phase had to do with a lot of the necessary infrastructure, updating wiring, a new roof, a new HVAC system, taking care of all the problems. Now we're moving ahead to some of the fun things. We're having a new luggage carousel put in, and on the bottom floor, and there's going to be redone bathrooms in a family area. So it'll be really attractive and nice for people coming in, and useful for people coming in. That's part of it.
Yeah, ultimately the hope and desire of our airport is that we bring in more flights. That has started in to that. We're hoping to bring some other flights into the area. And as we continuously, I was part of the original team that actually went back to DC and was championing the airport to try to get some extra money, and we brought it, and we've been successful as a council and as a team at the city to bring in a ton of extra federal money to actually help do the construction needs that have been needed to happen for as you said, decades.
We've had money from the federal administration, federal air
Aviation Administration.
thank you, and also the FT, which is Federal Terminal Administration. So two sources of funding, as well as Congressman Newhouse has given congressional directed spending a couple different times in terms of $5 million each time, and so that's been great. And when we first talked to the state about it, we said, SeaTac is going to be at capacity in 2030, and they were looking for answers across the state. Didn't really find any, and I went over with then City Manager Bob Harrison and raised our hand and said, Yakima wants to help you. we have the abilities to do that, and so it just kind of has moved forward from there. And while we do want more flights, 100% agree with that. We need another airline and more flights in here for more flexibility, but also SeaTac will likely keep their passenger cargo planes. That's where most of their money is in terms of Horizon anyway. We hope to pick up cargo. SeaTac carries a tremendous amount of cargo, and we can pick up 10-15% of that because we have the land capacity. We can land the planes. We have the capacity to build hangars for maintenance, for cargo storage. We already have refrigerated storage there, so we're set up to really handle cargo well in addition to some additional flights. What that will do too is encourage our local schools like Perry and J.M. Perry and others to create instruction in aviation industry so that our young people can get trained in a very well-paying, highly skilled job.
Yeah, that aspect of, excuse me, of air cargo is maybe not the first thing that would come to people's mind, but about 95, my recollection is about 95% of air cargo in Washington State goes through SeaTac. Yep. And with that the capacity issues that SeaTac is facing, there has to be some other solution for different parts of what happens at SeaTac, including cargo. And it does make sense that Central Washington, Yakima in specific, a lot of cargo traffic goes from here via truck to SeaTac, and just the savings in cost alone would be a significant.
Just for agricultural cargo, but we also have industry here that can use cargo capacity as well. And to be honest, we can likely. I kind of lost my train on that, but we can likely build the majority of our business in cargo because we are accessible. We're to the freeways, especially with the Beltway coming out of Union Gap, just right in on the freeway, right to the airport. Be able to store things there, move things there. So
Yeah, I mean the agriculture community. I mean we are the ag capital of Washington, and when it comes to when talking to some of those guys, they're super excited if we can pull in some of this cargo. It's going to save them some costs of hucking it all the way over the mountains and back every single day during seasons. And so I mean, if we can bring that in, let's do it.
Right, and it also because you don't have to worry about the inclement weather as much to do that.
Correct. Yeah.
So things moving forward at the airport as well. Of course, the last few times that you guys have joined us, our primary discussion point has been budget, and that hasn't really changed up to this point. Although there are some timelines that are coming up here for some decisions to be made. There's a projected $9 million shortfall coming up in 2026 in the general fund, which it primarily provides services like police, fire, parks, streets. Short of additional revenues, the options are not palatable, I would say.
No. If we start looking at doing $9 million for the cuts, we are talking about cuts to fire, police, parks and rec, and streets, clean cities. Those are all areas that we'll have to really look at cutting. And those are services that the people in our community rely on. Who doesn't want to have fire service? Who doesn't want to have police in all the different units that they handle? Who doesn't want to have clean cities who clean up all the camps and debris around, by the homeless community and do graffiti as well? So, I mean, those are some huge impacts in terms of if we lost those services.
Yeah, I mean, I think we said at our last council meeting, it's been, 30, 40 years since a property levy has passed to the voters, and I say that because costs for 30 or 40 years have gone up tremendously just in our own personal costs. What it costs for me to live in my house has gone up just in the last 5 years. And so as we've been looking at that, I mean, we just finished our community surveys and different things of priorities and trying to get all of that information, which has been helpful to see what the community wants us to prioritize. Now the council is faced with some tough decisions. It's, you know, how do we get to that balanced budget come the end of this year so that going into 26? I think it's going to be a mixture of things, in my opinion. I think we're going to have to do a mixture. Ultimately, the voters are going to have to probably decide what this is.
Right.
And, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, it's not a fun situation to try to look at $9 million worth of cuts. You know, we're not the only community facing this as well. There's communities all up and down in Washington State that have been facing this same issue. And it's a unfortunate problem to have at the same time this year.
Right. Because the city faces the same inflation and costs in terms of all of us do, even in our own homes. You know, things have just risen significantly. So I think, as Deputy Mayor Brown said, it's going to be a combination of things in terms of what the council decides. Ultimately, we have several different packages to look at. What we put forward then will ask to go on the ballot. Then it is really up to the voters. It's up to the people who live in the community to tell us if they are going to agree with that or not. They get the final say. So
just in specific, you're talking about placing a measure before, potentially placing a measure before voters to increase property tax collection.
That's one thing, yeah.
That's one of the potential options. What are some of the others?
I mean, there's options like you know, the legislature just recently passed a public safety sales tax that we could increase sales tax by 0.1 you know, tenth of a percent, and be able to, you know, bring in an extra 2.7 million in revenue that way, perhaps. There's all of these different options. I mean, really the option that nobody really likes is $9 million worth of cuts. It's not real pretty. It's not exciting. But I do think council has to probably still make some of those cuts anyways. I think there's going to be cuts regardless of tax revenue or not. I mean, we're already seeing even our own sales taxes down from what we were projecting it to be, which just means we're going to have to make probably additional cuts in the same process of that. And I think that's okay.
People are spending less money.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I think that's responsible, and I think you know, we're going to have to do those things to balance this budget. Right. So and we don't have an option.
So we're looking at doing if we do a property increase, we can do two things. We can separate the public safety portion of that, fire, police, clean cities, from the Parks and Rec section of that. Do two separate levies to see if people would prefer one over another, or if they would support both. Or we can do just one levy that would include everything, and no matter which way we go, we're still going to be making cuts. And so it'll be up to the council to make those final decisions, depending on how the community supports or doesn't support by vote.
And I know people at home probably listening to this going, "Oh my gosh, no more taxes!" Like they're you know stressed. And I'm like, I'm with you. I don't like taxes either. In fact, I mean, in our own home, it's gone up in the last 2 to 3 years to where it's painful, and I get it, and you know, so that's why I think it's responsible for the council to look at and go, look, if we're going to ask for something, we need to make sure that we are as lean as we can possibly be in every department, so that we can balance this thing, not just on the backs of the taxpayers.
Right.
Yeah. Well. Some challenging decisions coming up.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that people will be watching very, very closely as the council goes through this process. And by the next time that you're here, many of those questions will have been answered.
Right.
And we'll have a chance to talk about it then. So thank you once again, Matt Brown and Patricia Byers, for being here on this edition of Yakima Agenda. We always appreciate the time you take to help explain this information and these concepts and issues to the community. And thank you as well for joining us for this edition of Yakima Agenda. I'm Randy Beeler. Take care.